Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to the Persistence Payoff Show. We're here on USA Global TV and Radio. I'm your host, Kimberly Schafer. I believe that all of us have dreams and goals and aspirations, and those are the seeds that start our next steps. And persistence is what actually gives the energy for those steps to come into existence. And that's the fuel that flames our dreams and bringing them into reality. I'm on my own journey with persistence. I'm 65 and I'm a first-time inventor and entrepreneur. I invented the ring thing, which is a waterproof patented ring holder. And I'm learning every day about the importance of persistence, resilience, and sticking with it. It's been a wonderful journey so far. And I'm very excited to talk today to our guest, Liisa Kovala. Liisa is an author, a book coach, and a former teacher. She's written books, entire books, novels, and she's also written short stories. Her latest book, Like Water for Weary Souls, has won a global award for women's fiction. She's an author accelerator, and she coaches and mentors authors, both one-on-one as well as in group settings. She's Finnish-Canadian, and I'm really looking forward to talking with her. So please welcome Liisa Kovala.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is lovely.
Yes, thank you. Now, you're Finnish-Canadian, so I'm curious to know where you are right now while we're talking.
So I'm in Northern Ontario in a town called Sudbury, which is, I don't know, four hours north of Toronto. We always talk about distance in hours here. I'm not sure why. 400 kilometers maybe from Toronto. And we are just white, snow-covered, beautiful, sunny, bright January day today. So couldn't want to be anywhere else. Well, maybe I'd like to be on the beach somewhere in the warmth, but
yes. No, Ontario is beautiful. It's a beautiful province. So,
yes.
well, I would love to know about the genesis of your journey. Like, how did you become an author? Have you written since you were young, or how did that come to be?
Yeah, I was one of those people who was a reader as a child, and I used to draw lots of pictures and tell stories with pictures. And then I started writing short stories and poetry and songs and whatever. So I've always written, and I studied English at university as well. But I really didn't start writing seriously until I was 40. And basically what happened was my mom gave me a phone call and said, hey, somebody wants to write your dad's story. I knew he had an incredible story to tell. I didn't know the details. And I thought, okay, this is the time. He was 84 and, there was no putting it off. I had this sense that I wanted to write it since I was a kid. And I started taking creative writing courses and just beginning that journey. And I haven't looked back. So that was in 2012, I think, when we started writing that book.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And did you finish it? Did it get published?
Yeah, it's called Surviving Stutthof. Initially, we self-published. And then a local publisher picked it up and repackaged it, and we did some more editing. And so it got published by the publisher in 2017. So it's been quite an incredible journey to go through that process of writing this story that I thought was kind of for our family and friends. And then it ended up being, wide readership. In fact, it got published in Finland in Finnish, which I know my father would have loved. He died in 2018. I think it was 2020, 2021 when the book was published in Finland. And that was so incredible because that now we had family members there that could read it, and other people that could access that information about what the Finnish sailors went through in those concentration camps when they were during World War II.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that is an important story to tell.
Yeah, I think I always say that I will continue to write books, and I will continue to write probably for my whole life, but that'll always be the most important book I've ever written and the most meaningful. So it's just, I'm so thrilled that he found it within himself to share that story, because for years and years and years, like for decades, he didn't talk about it, or very rarely, and only to some very, very trusted friends or family members. So none of us really knew the whole thing. We all knew snippets. So when he finally did tell me what happened at that concentration camp and during the death marches, it was incredibly moving, and I felt like it was so important for myself and my brothers and my children to have that story. And so yeah, I'm really, really grateful that he agreed to do it, because he could have easily said, no, I'm not going there. But he did. And I think it was really great for all of us.
Wow. And did I hear you say he was a sailor?
Yeah. So he was, he was underage, as many of those folks were. He was born in Oulu, Finland. And he was 16 when he got work on a Finnish merchant marine ship. And so they were, moving through the Baltic, and then their ship got captured in September 1944. And the Nazis raided their ship and detained them and took their passports and sent them to this concentration camp called Stutthof, which was notoriously brutal. And very few people survived that journey. So there were about, I think, 90 Finnish sailors who ended up in that concentration camp. And, it was one of those stories that, people don't really know it. They've heard about all kinds of other things happening, but this was sort of not really talked about. So I think it was a surprise to a lot of Finnish people that I know that this was even a thing, that these sailors were incarcerated. So it was a big learning curve. And I was fortunate enough to go to that concentration camp and get a tour by a Polish man. So the camp is in Poland. And he was a 16-year-old Polish prisoner in Germany at the same time my dad was imprisoned. And so he gave me a tour of Stutthof and explained how everything worked. And it was just incredible, because he understood what I was trying to do. Like, I'm trying to tell this story. I want to be accurate. I want to give the details, tell people what it was really like. And it was really emotional at the end. Like, we both kept it together through the whole tour. And at the end, we were both crying.
Yes. I can only imagine. I feel like I'm almost in tears listening to this, because I had no idea about that.
Yes,
I knew nothing about that happening to the Finnish sailors. So
And there were 26 nationalities in that camp. And I think that's something people don't understand necessarily, because we talk a lot about Auschwitz and various, like some of the very big places, and people have toured them and have read accounts, which we should all do. But we sometimes forget that if you were against Hitler, you were eligible to be incarcerated. Like, it didn't matter where you were from or what your belief system was, or nothing mattered. Like, if you're against him, you're in. So, wrong time, wrong place. They were in the port in, at the time it was Gdansk now. And so it was just the situation, and you just never know. Right. So I think it's important that modern audiences read these stories to understand how quickly democracy can fail, and how quickly, folks can just be swept up and sent away or imprisoned or tortured or whatever, because these things happen, and they are happening. So sometimes we need to read these stories to remind ourselves, like, oh, we've been here before, and we need to pay attention.
Yes. And we know the brutality of it from those stories, like what you shared with your father. And so I totally agree with you, especially right now. And I also think when we look back, it actually wasn't that long ago.
No,
it feels like a long time ago, but it wasn't a long time ago.
And some people say, "Are you sure?" Like, they said, like, your grandfather. No, my dad. Like, at least, I mean, of course, he was a young person in the war. Like, he was 16 when he was arrested, and I'm his youngest child, so he was already fairly, like, by some standards, a fairly older father, because there's like 40 years between us, 44, I guess, 44 years between us. So, but still, I'm not talking about a great grandfather or grandfather, even it's my
No,
dad. So
no,
it's not that long ago. And,
no.
it worries me to see what's happening now that, um, not that people have forgotten, but they maybe are sometimes not thinking that what's happening could escalate, right? That when the signs are there, we think, oh, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. But I hope that people are just vigilant and aware and proactive.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And I think it's another great outcome of your sharing that story is that it does bring it to people now. And I
Yeah.
do think that we need those reminders. And I
Mhm.
also imagine that for your father, it probably meant so much to have you be the one to write his story,
I think
you
so
know.
too. I feel like initially he told me about growing up in Finland and as a little boy and the adventures they went into. And then he started telling me about the beginning of the Winter War, which is the war between Finland and Russia, 1939. He was just a little boy and school ended and all the things, and like bombs raining down on his town. Then he started telling me about coming to Canada and getting work here and all of those kinds of things. And I thought, oh, we're never going to end up in this camp. Like, I don't think he can go through that death gate and tell us these stories. Eventually, it took many months, but he did. So, on the one hand, I think it was good that it was me, but on the other, think he needed some time to test the waters and feel comfortable and understand that like I'm a very sensitive person and he knows that. So I think he was being careful too that with these very traumatic stories. So there was kind of a like
Mm.
a feeling it out for many months, and eventually he got there, and so we both had to navigate that because I needed to hold in my emotions. He needed to share deeply intimate things that were traumatizing for him. But in the end, once the book was out in the world, he would come to events with me, sit beside me
Mm.
at tables, and talk to strangers about what had happened. And I'm like, wait a
Wow.
minute, what just happened here? You couldn't tell me for months, and now you're talking to the stranger. But it shows that he needed to tell those stories. It was so important for him to tell those stories and kind of in a way release them. And that, like, not that he became I always hesitate to call it therapy because I don't think like therapy is a whole other thing, but it can have some therapeutic effect to tell your stories and put them out in the world. And there is somewhat of a release of that from yourself. But I think he never got over like the PTSD of it, right? Like he
Mm.
continued to have night terrors right to the end of his life. So it doesn't go away, just because decades pass, it doesn't go away. But I think something about telling a story was really good for him.
Yes, I can imagine. I think that there's even though it can be so scary, there's a lightness that happens, I think, when we are vulnerable and share what's happened
Yeah,
to us. And
totally agree.
yes, yeah. And and first of all, I'm sorry that you lost him in 2018.
Yeah.
And I'm really also very happy that he lived to see the book be published and know
Yes.
that it was out there. And
Yeah,
what a gift.
absolutely. And he was 90 when
Mm.
he passed. And he would have said if he was here that he had lived a great life. So,
Mm.
he was that kind of personality, despite all those terrible things that happened. He chose a path in his life that was filled with stories and joy and laughter and
Mm.
joking. And he loved to be around people, and he was very, very social. So, he would say that it was a great, great life, even though all of this happened. And I think that's a great outlook.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. What a great role model. And I'm curious to know now with your subsequent books, have you gone more into fiction or are you doing mostly nonfiction?
I'm into fiction, which had always been my love. Like as a reader, and when I was writing stories when I was young, it was always fiction. So, but having doing this book with him taught me so many of the skills that I needed to finish a project and to learn about creative writing, and just kind of up my game. But I would say that the next two books in particular were inspired by him because. Um, my first historical novel called Sisu's Winter War is set during that Finnish-Russian Winter War of 1939 when he was a kid, and he told me about it. And I was interested in, well, what was my grandmother and the women in our family, what were they doing? And so I was able to learn a little bit about the Lotta Svards. They were like the paramilitary women's organization, and they did a lot of different roles. But the woman in my story is a nurse's assistant, and she gets herself to the front lines. And so it's kind of that story. And then the other half of the story is her as an older woman who gets a diagnosis of early onset Alzheimer's. Also inspired by my dad, because he ended up getting Alzheimer's. And so much of what happened to him, I observed both as it's such a terrible disease. Anyone who's seen it, you know that it's heartbreaking, but also strangely from the brain perspective, sort of fascinating to see like how the brain transforms and changes and how they see the world. So I wanted to write about that from my character's perspective. Like what does it feel like in those early stages to know things are shifting and changing, and you can't control that. And then that interplay between memory and what had happened in the past versus what was happening now. And so I really enjoyed exploring all those topics. So really, my dad inspired that book too, even though it's not about him or my family. It's all fictional characters, but grounded in reality. Yeah.
Wow. And I love the title of your most recent book, like Water for Weary Souls. And can you give us some background on that book and what that one is about?
So this one was, in my mind, I thought I was going to write a mystery because I love mysteries. And I thought I'm going to write a mystery. And then I started researching the 1930s and the Depression. And I'm so interested in Finnish history. And I came across a book and some research that had been done about women, Finnish women in Sudbury, which is where I'm from, in a mining town in the 30s. And it was talking about the kinds of roles they had. Things like some of them owned boarding houses, right? They ran boarding houses. Some of them were bootleggers, which I thought was great. And then some of them were madams who owned brothels. And I thought, wow, that's really fascinating. So I got really intrigued by how were women surviving in the Depression in this mining town, especially Finnish immigrant women, because that was sort of the topic I was interested in. And then I thought, well, I can kind of smush together this historical fiction and this mystery. And so I ended up writing a story about two Finnish domestic workers who leave their farming community and come to the city during the Depression, end up living in a boarding house run by a madam. But one of the sisters' body, Hannah's body, is found in Nolan Creek during after a snowstorm, like a late spring snowstorm. And the other sister knows definitively there's no way she would have crossed that creek. She knows water. She knows what can happen. And Essie is determined to find out what happened to her sister, because the police say it's an accident, but it's not an accident. And so it was so fun to integrate the historical stuff with the mystery and my interest in Finnish history, but make it sort of grounded in a place that I know really intimately. And that was really fun to write.
Wow. What a great journey. And I see that it's already won awards. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a surprise, and really delighted to about that, because, it's just nice to know that it's being well received and and it has readers, which I'm very grateful for.
Absolutely. And will that one be translated into Finnish also?
I don't know. That would be wonderful. I haven't investigated the possibility of that yet, but I would love that to happen.
Yes.
I would like it to be in all the languages, but we'll see.
Yes.
I'm sure. Big.
Yes. Well, and talking about persistence, I mean, I can imagine that along that path, both, working with your father and hearing his story and learning about that, as well as your own books that you wrote after that, were there ever times when you just felt like giving up? And if there were, how did you push through them?
Oh, that's such a good question. When I started my dad's book, I was really determined, because it was a project we were doing together, and it was so important to me, and I didn't want to let him down. And I had family members that knew we were doing this project. So there was no question that it was going to happen. It was just like, okay, how do I make this the best thing it can be? And for the other books, like I think once you have one book under your wing, like you know that you can finish a project. Like I'm confident always that I can finish a project, whether it's a good project, whether
Mhm.
it turns out the way I want it to turn out. That might be a whole other discussion. But I now understand that my journey doesn't look like everyone else's. Like I don't write every day. While I was working on some of these books, I was a full-time teacher. So life has changed, but you kind of have to figure out how to work with your own schedule and your life and your energy and your health and all of the things. So I think persistence is the name of the game. Like I don't think there's any other way to do it. Just keep doing it, right? Don't give up. In Finnish, we have a word called Sisu. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I'm not.
Sisu is I talk about Sisu all the time. So anyone listening will be like, oh yeah, there she goes. Sisu is so important to Finnish culture. It's a concept that has been around for, forever, but like probably 500 years old in terms of like written language. And there's no English definition, but it means courage, determination, strength, perseverance. And if you think about, I've heard somebody say it's like where grit ends, right? So that's where Sisu comes in. It's that like you just dig deep and anyone who's been in a situation where they feel like I can't go any further and they do, that's Sisu. That's like that internal drive. And I really rely on this concept because it works for me in all situations. So if things aren't good in my life or something bad has happened or we're dealing with a death in the family or something like that, you just have to lean into that and accept that this is how it is, but also that we have to keep moving forward. And when it comes to writing, I still dig into Sisu and I talk to writers about Sisu all the time. That idea that, it might not look like you want it to look. Maybe the goals posts have changed. Maybe you're not feeling great about it. You don't want to do something, but you have to dig into that Sisu to keep yourself moving forward. And so that for me is integral part of how I view the world. And it just resonates for me. So that to me, persistence and perseverance is really about having that Sisu.
Yeah, what a wonderful term. I love that. I have not heard of that, and I feel like it deeply resonates with me. I
Yes,
can
yeah.
feel that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love
It's
that.
one of those words that if you're driving around Northern Ontario, you might see it on a bumper sticker or somebody's license plate or hats. Like I have a hat that says this,
Wow.
or t-shirts, because it's just like such a prevalent word in the Finnish community. But Finnish-Canadians and the Finnish Americans have adopted it as their own, right? Because they
Yes.
deeply feel that. So it's kind of a funny to see it on all this. I think I have a mug that says Sisu, but it's such a deeply ingrained feeling and sense of being able to persevere and overcome, right? Does it mean you're going to be successful? No, it doesn't, but you'd go anyway. You do it anyway.
Keep trying.
Keep
Yes.
trying. Yes. Don't give up.
Wow, that's it's such a rich word. It's only, I believe, sounds like 4 letters,
Better.
but it encompasses a lot. That's
It really
fantastic.
does. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and you also do, you're an author accelerator. And so I would love to know how that came to be. Did you start that when you first started writing, or is that something that has evolved later?
So I left teaching in 2022, 5 years before my official retirement date. So I took early retirement. I knew I was going to write and I knew I didn't want to not work. I just didn't know what I wanted to do next. It was shortly after COVID. It was shortly after, some really difficult teaching years. I had a really great year that year of teaching. And I just knew that this was a great time to walk away. Like I just knew it was time to go. Even though I loved my job, I loved the kids, I was ready to do something different. And I left teaching and I knew I was going to write and continue writing. And I wasn't sure what else. But then this author accelerator book coaching program, I don't even know how I found it. It just, I saw something with Jenny Nash. I saw a webinar, I think, with Jenny Nash, who's the founder. And I was really intrigued by what she was saying. And it was resonating for me. And I thought, is this for real? And then I kept looking for things with Jenny Nash and Author Accelerator to see, okay, is this is this a legit program? Because, you see things all the time online and you think this is too
Yes.
good to be true. I thought,
Yes.
I've never heard of this job before. And I had a friend actually in Sudbury who is a book coach and had gone through the program. And she assured me, she said, no, it's fantastic. So I actually signed up in the fall of that year and became a certified book coach. And the training was excellent. Like, I had been an English major. I had taught creative writing and English at high school. I had done a University of Toronto creative writing program. Like, I had done a lot of work towards my writing. And then I took this program and it was like light bulbs all over the place.
Wow.
It was amazing. And so now I'm trained to teach other writers and help them in this journey. And it's not about me saying, okay, you must do this, that. It's always about guiding a writer to find their own path and their own way of doing things, but supporting them and being a cheerleader and like a project manager sometimes, sometimes an editor. So there's all kinds of things that come into it. And I know that along the way, I needed that kind of support from different mentors. And so now I get to be that for other people. And it's so fun. I love it. And it's just so rewarding to see these individuals the spark they've always wanted to write. They always have a book inside them, and they just they're growing and changing every week. And it's just lovely. Yeah,
Yes.
it's the best job. And I didn't even know it was a job. Shout out to Author Accelerator.
Yes. Well, I think sometimes the best journeys are the accidents. It was you just happened to see that and it resonated and you went with your intuition.
Yeah, I agree. If I had seen it 10 years earlier when my kids were younger and when I was working full time, I'm not sure I would have paid as much attention to it. But I was at a point in my life where I knew I needed something and I wanted to work in the literary field. And so like you say, sometimes things come when you need them and you don't even know you need them.
No.
So yeah.
No. And I think that's also when it's really important that we listen to ourselves, because it's so easy to talk yourself out of something, right? You could have looked at that and said, oh,
yes.
Oh,
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And you went with it. And so you've worked with students as a teacher and now as an author accelerator. Yeah. Do you notice, I'm sure that in both of those settings, there are some people who complete their projects and there are other people who don't.
Yes.
And when you think about those two groups, are there any differentiating characteristics, or is it more random about who completes things versus who doesn't?
I don't know. I don't think it's random. I think it is mindset. I really do. I think, if you have a goal to complete something and you have a purpose and a reason for doing it, like we always talk about having a why for the project that you're doing. Because if you understand in my case with my dad's book, I knew I needed to write it. He had to tell his story. I had to have this for our family. It was like, it went beyond just writing a book. It was really about that. So when you have a really strong why, that can keep you focused. It's like your North Star. But I think some folks get into the middle of a project and they're very excited at the beginning and, it's this shiny, bright new thing and they're really enthusiastic, and then they get to the hard work of it. And that's when folks sometimes are like, well, maybe I don't want to work on this. Maybe I have another idea. And what about that over there? And maybe I'm not good enough. And all the doubts start coming in. And that's when a coach can really help to keep you moving forward.
Yes.
But that's when that, like we were talking about earlier, that Sisu, or that persistence and perseverance really comes through, because people who finish don't stop because it doesn't feel good anymore, or that they have those negative thoughts, or that they doubt themselves. Like, you can doubt yourself and keep doing the work, right? And you can be like unsure and being in that space of feeling uncomfortable. We often don't like that, right? We run away from that. If we're feeling uncomfortable and uncertain, we think, oh, like, let's just leave that aside and go and do something else that makes me feel good, that has more immediate effect, and I'll feel better. But it's those folks who will sit in that mucky middle and just keep moving forward with uncertainty. Those are the folks that will finish. And there's some stats, I don't remember them, about the number of people who want to write a book versus the number of people who try to write a book versus the number of people who actually finish. And the number of people who finish, it's quite small. And I think it's for that reason. It's not that they can't write a book. It's that they just give up. and don't, continue working through the process.
Yeah. I think that's such a great way to put it. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable and
Yeah,
have that
absolutely.
faith that there's an other side to it.
Yes, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
that's a good word, as faith, because it's really easy for us. I think there's a lot of writers who won't even call themselves a writer. Like that, even that word, like I'm not a real writer, or I'm not a writer until I get published, or until, there's all these little goalposts that they don't even want to admit that they're a writer. And so that's just something about mindset too, right? That they don't even have faith in themselves to call themselves a writer, and yet they're sitting down to write all the time. So there's all these little hurdles that we have to get over, in terms of um, our outlook on who we are and what other people expect of us versus what we expect of ourselves, and these tensions, to be able to go like, yeah, you know what, this, I'm doing that, so I'm that thing, like just owning it and starting to feel confident. And we're all going to have doubts, and we're all going to have some imposter syndrome and all the things, but the more you do something, the more you feel like, okay, yeah, I mean, it's not great every day, but some days it's so good.
Yes. Yeah, there's this saying, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but it's something along the lines of, they talk about in fashion, like dress for the job you want, not the job
Yes,
that you have. And it's that
agree.
idea of I'm putting on these clothes and this is how I'm presenting myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always encourage folks to call themselves writers right from the beginning. If you have that dream, if you're working at it, you're a writer. And that just like, it's just a little label, but something about it makes them feel a bit more confident and realize, oh, I'm doing the work, and it is work, and that's fine.
Yes, yes. And how do you find the people that you coach? Do you advertise? Do you have webinars?
Yeah, I do. I have the couple things. So I do have a website, and I do post about opportunities on social media. And I have a Substack newsletter, which is called Women Writing. And I also share information about book coaching opportunities there. I often work one-on-one with individuals, but I also have group book coaching classes. So I have one right now in the winter, and they're generally 5 or 6 people. So it's quite a lovely, intimate group that are working on their own projects and getting support. So there's lots of ways. And I also run, I co-host the Rekindle Creativity Women's Writing Retreat here. Generally, we've been here in Ontario, and that's a small writing retreat that we host. I do it with Dinah LaPrairie, who's actually the coach who told me about Author Accelerator, and she's in
Mm.
town. So we just kind of combine forces, and we do these. Sometimes we do workshops, but we do these retreats. And so, yeah, we let people know about that. And that's another way to connect with writers. Yeah, so there's, just trying to get the word out sometimes to let people know what you're doing, because
Yes.
again, a lot of folks have never even heard about the word book coaching, and I certainly hadn't. Although there have always been writing mentors of some kind, whether we call them book coaches or writing coaches or teachers or mentors. Very few people write a book on their own. Most people need support, guidance, somebody to help them navigate structure and craft and all of those things. So I'm just happy that I found this, because it's perfectly up in my wheelhouse when it comes to having been a teacher and then being a writer, and just marrying all the things that I love into one space. And I love working with writers. I think it's just joy filled. It's such a great it's a great career.
Yes. Oh, it sounds fantastic. And now your book that has come out, like Water for Weary Souls, do you have another book coming out after that? Do you have something else in the
Yeah.
hopper?
I always have. I'm guilty of being a person who has several projects on the go at any given time. I usually have one book getting ready to go out, one that I'm editing, and one that I'm working on. So that is the case right now. I have a book called Hygge and Homicide coming out in March. It's the first in a series called the Hygge House Cozy Mystery Series. So I'm leaning into my Nordic Scandinavian roots
Yes.
for this book of cozy mysteries. And then the second one of that book I'm editing, and that's coming out in April. And then I'll have a third next August. So that one I'm planning. So I always have sort of 3 things going at the same time. I also have 2 other historical novels that are in various stages of production. So I have one that is written but needs some editing, and I have one that is in draft form, and I need to do more research, and I'm going to have to go back and edit, and I'd like to do some travel for that as well. So I would say there's probably 5 books in the works, but I'm not, those 2 historical novels, I'm going to space them out. They're not going to come out all at once, but the cozies are going to come out a little bit more quickly.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Well, congratulations. That's very, very inspiring. And our time has flown by. I feel like I could keep talking to you for a long time because this is so interesting. But before we let you go, can you please let people know how they can connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. So they can find me at liisakovala.com, also liisakovalabookcoach.com, and on Substack, I'm Liisa Kovala. What am I out there? Women Writing, Liisa Kovala on Substack. So you can just look for my name or Women Writing on Substack, and you can get my newsletter. And I have a podcast called Women Writing and all the things. So feel free to search for me. 2 I's, Liisa.
All right. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story and your journey. It's very inspirational. And I learned, like, I had no idea about the Finnish sailors and that history. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. This was my pleasure. It was really delightful to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. You too. Thank you. And I end every show with a quote about persistence. And I just go with what speaks to me before the show. And I feel like this one fits very well with our conversations. This is from James Dyson, who said, "There's no such thing as a quantum leap. There's only dogged persistence. And in the end, it makes you look like you took a quantum leap." So I think the dogged persistence is something we really learned about today from Liisa. So if you'd like to reach me, I would love to hear from you. You can reach me on my website. That's ringthing.com. My email address is Kimberly@ringthing.com. And I would love to hear any comments that you might have about the show or suggestions or thoughts that you have. So please feel free to reach out. We're here every other Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. So I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. And we'll sign off for today. And please take care and simply persist.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.